Ashtalakshmi, Assistant Professor of English, Patna College, Madurai. In this video, we are going to see the critical analysis of Ochiro Nunukal's We Are Going. Ochiro Nunukal is a famous Aboriginal Australian poet, writer, activist, artist and educator who campaigned for Aboriginal rights. Nunukal was the first Aboriginal Australian to publish a book of verse. Kate Walker, who changed her name to Ochiro Nunukal in 1988, is an Aboriginal Australian writer and political activist whose work centers the experience of Indigenous people in Australia. Nunukal poems are mainly written to protest about the discrimination against Aboriginal people and other minority groups. She writes about this because she herself is an Aboriginal woman and she has seen the mistreatment of her people. Nunukal believed passionately in the power of education to change an unjust world. She used her writing as a weapon on behalf of her people. Nunukal was also an artist. Her artworks had a similar theme to her poems, trying to get people to think about Aboriginal when most people wanted to ignore them altogether. Nunukal was best known for her poetry. Her first volume of poetry, We Are Going, is the first book written by an Aboriginal woman to be published. The title poem, We Are Going, was described by the Cambridge Guide to Literature in English as a moving elegy on the disposition of Aboriginal people. Nunukal, quoted in the Oxford Companion to Australian Literature, described it as a warning to the white people: we can go out of existence, or with proper help, we could also go on and live in this world in peace and harmony. The poem describes what has been lost through British conquest and what will be lost in the future if Aboriginal people were not respected and valued. The poem offers a powerful critique of colonialism. It suggests that colonialism is a form of cultural genocide, robbing Aboriginal Australians of their lives and identities and destroying the beauty and balance of the natural world. The poet starts by describing a group of Aboriginal people as they would be seen from a white colonial perspective. The description of these people as a semi-naked band echoes colonial language, which often emphasizes native people's physical appearance and attire as evidence of their subhuman status. Subdued and silent, this implies that they have undergone extreme suffering. The opening of the poem then implicitly conveys the ways in which Aboriginal Australians and many native peoples around the world are seen and represented as dehumanized and fundamentally voiceless. A description all that remained of their tribe makes clear that this tribe, implied to be a tribe of Aboriginal Australian, was once much larger. Now, though, as a result of colonialism, only a small number are left. In the next line, she tells that they came here to the place of their old Bora ground. Bora ring is one of the several tribal ceremonial grounds. Ceremonial grounds are very significant to the Aboriginal people and are usually marked with Bora ring. This poem also reveals that colonialism destroys whole way of life and what is most sacred to these Aboriginal Australians. For example, Bora ground is a sacred land where ceremonies were traditionally held. However, the poem describes how The old Bora ground has been taken over by white colonizers who have even set up a sign indicating that rubbish may be tipped here. In other words, the sacred land of the Aboriginal Australians is now used by the colonizers as a dumping ground. In the line where now the many white men hurry about like ants, the poet points out that this small group of Aboriginal Australians, who are described as subdued and silent, are then contrasted with the many white men who now hurry about the town like ants. Before colonization, the white colonizers were the minority. They have made themselves the majority, implicitly through the conquest of the native people. The poet shifts to the collective first person we. The poem centers and prioritizes the perspective of people. We have often dismissed, ignored and silenced. Bora Bora is an Australian Aboriginal dance ceremony which may take the form of a sacred ritual or an informal gathering. They are strangers here now, but in reality, the white tribe are the strangers. Then the poet utilizes a series of metaphors that compare the remaining tribe members and those scattered across Australia to the old ceremonies, the laws of the elders, and more. They are an integral part of the land in a way that the white settlers or colonial British are never going to be. They cannot connect to the land in the same way, but they have still worked to remove any Aboriginal presence from areas they have deemed their own and exterminated their culture. Later, the poet remarks that all the old ways are gone now and scattered, suggesting that all the traditional way of the life of the Aboriginal Australians have been lost as a result of colonialism. The poet speaks about the beauty and complexity of Aboriginal Australian identity and culture. Then the poet emphasizes the connection of identity to both tradition and the land in lines such as "We are old ceremonies, the laws of the elders." The remaining tribe members embody everything that is left of their culture. Within their lives and their children's lives, one can find the entire history of their culture and people. They are the hunters, ceremonies, campfire, joyous moments and the darker moments. The shadow which the speaker describes as ghost-like creep across the camp as the fire burned down. These two are part of the tribe's past and part of what the remaining members embody. Finally, the poet suggests that colonialism has also destroyed the land and natural world itself. The speaker mourns the loss of the eagle. The speaker mourns the loss of the eagle, the emu, the kangaroo, who are now gone from this place. British colonialism has resulted not only in the loss of native people and their culture, but also in the loss of animals that once inhabited the land. Implicitly, what was balanced and integral in this natural setting has been destroyed. The title, "We Are Going," which repeats in the poem last line, suggests that these last Aboriginal people will soon disappear from the land as well. Some of the major themes in the poem are identity and colonialism. The identities of men, women and children of their Aboriginal community are at the heart of this poem. Throughout the poem, the poet describes how destructive colonialism when it comes to maintaining Aboriginal identity in Australia. The poet celebrates the culture of Aboriginal Australian and centers their perspective and experiences while also juxtaposing them against the perspective of white colonialism. Colonialism is one of the major themes of this poem. The poet describes everything that has been lost through British colonialism and the lack of respect for Aboriginal Australian culture, practices and uniqueness. The poet suggests that colonialism sought to rob Aboriginal Australians of their identities and destroy the balance of their world. Some of the major literary devices used in this poem are simile, anaphora, allusion, and metaphors. Throughout this poem, the poet makes use of several literary devices. Some of them are similes. Similes is a comparison that uses like or as. For example, where now the many white men hurry about like ants. Anaphora, the repetition of the same word or phrase at the beginning of multiple lines. For example, we, which begins 10 of the poem's lines. Allusion, a reference to something outside the scope of the poem. For example, Kapamala Hill is an allusion to a specific landmark. Metaphor. Throughout this poem, the poet makes use of numerous metaphors. Some of these include we are the quiet daybreak, we are nature and past, we are the old ceremonies. Each metaphor the poet uses is presented to emphasize the strength, beauty and power of Aboriginal Australian communities. But at the same time, the writer ensures readers walk away with an understanding of how much of the community, their practices, the culture have been lost.